Hey, what's that guy's name? The Punisher.
I don't know his name, but the guy from Walking Dead. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I saw a picture of like the lead character's face, and I was like, is that him?
Frank Castle.
Yeah.
Steve Bartholomew.
Shane. Is that really his name?
I don't know. Steve Bush. No, not Steve Buscemi. Can you imagine if Steve Buscemi was the lead character in a Ghost Recon game with his fucking crooked ass eyes and shit?
This is Twin Stick Radio, episode 68 for the week of May 9th, 2019.
69.
Nope.
Oh,
I am one of your hosts, Trey Higgins, and I'm joined by Chris Rodriguez.
It's the 68. It's a thing too, right? It's when it's a thing.
That's when you're eating a butt and, intercoursing a butt at the same time.
I don't think that's true.
Two separate butts make up the 8.
Two separate butts?
Wouldn't
not even individual butt cheeks. It's like two separate butts.
Two separate butts. The little O's represent the holes.
Ooh, 68.
And did I say your name, Justin? Justin
No,
T. Lopez.
But hey, that's me.
Man, great start to this episode.
Yeah, that's about right.
How's everything going, guys? We have a lot of news to talk about. It's a very busy week.
My throat hurts.
It's busy.
Why does your throat hurt?
I don't know. There's like a storm blowing in. Did you see that there's going to be like grapefruit-sized hail?
That's north of Austin, not here.
Well, okay. 40 minutes down the road.
Man,
About an hour down the road.
So
Grapefruit-sized hail. I don't even like grapefruits.
On Friday when we had that like super big storm for like
Was that
2
Friday
hours,
or was that
That
Monday?
was Friday.
That was like
I thought it was Monday.
I was at the shop working, and we heard thunder, and it was, Sandy was still there, and I was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go refill my soda before the storm hits." Go out to my car. It's not raining. Perfectly dry, calm day. Get in my car, go to drive to the gas station, and I literally cross over into just this downpour of rain. And so I had to sit in my car and sort of wait for it to pass, because like it was the sort of rain that if you walked out in, you might as well just go swimming afterwards, because you'll be as wet as if you'd gotten in the pool.
We got one of those yesterday too.
But I was sitting in my car waiting for it to go away, and just hail starts hitting my car.
They hailed here?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Not big. There was like maybe this big.
Yeah,
it wasn't. It was not enough to maybe put a couple dents, but not bad.
Not grapefruits falling from the sky.
It was like that yesterday too. Yesterday, I was working at the house and I heard a thunder roll, whatever you call a thunder.
Thunder roll.
Yeah, like what is that? What do you call
lightning strike?
What do you call the act of a thunder? I heard a thunder
I think
roll.
thunder rolls.
Crack?
A crack. Very good.
There you go.
Yeah, I heard thunder
that's
crack.
lightning crack.
I don't think the lightning makes the noise.
No, I know the lightning doesn't make the noise. Well, actually, the lightning does make.
Sure,
the
it
noise.
makes electric, but the thunder is cracking. The thunder is
boogie woogie woogie.
the thunder crack, the thunder roll.
I think the roll.
Whatever it is.
It sounds like a bowling ball.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, can we get on with the? Can we get on with the relevant?
Yeah. So I'm working. I hear that. I was like, oh shit, storm's coming in. So I shut everything. I shut my computer down, do all this other stuff, and I would say get everything shut down. Maybe grab something to drink real quick. Blah blah. Anyway, like there was no gradual beginning to rain.
Yeah, no build.
It was just like dead silent, and then. And I walked outside. I get probably 30 seconds from the rain hitting to me walking outside, and our street was already flooded. It was raining that hard yesterday.
Yeah, my parents said they got
insane.
like 4 inches at their farm on Friday.
Yep.
So, which is just awful because it's open land, so it's just mud.
Oh,
4 inches of mud.
And
I picture mosquitoes
yep.
everywhere.
I actually haven't seen a lot of mosquitoes out recently.
No, I haven't
Yet.
either.
They'll come.
Maybe.
I don't feel like they usually hit until like into June,
Maybe.
beginning of July.
It's supposed to be cool tomorrow. It's supposed to be like 60 something tomorrow.
Oh, but with all that standing water, oh man.
Yep.
Mosquitoes are. The fun
Texas.
thing about mosquito babies is
Yeah,
that
absolutely
they have these like they actually can't breathe underwater, so they have these little breathing tubes that like just pierce the top of water, which is why like mosquitoes only breed in like puddles and small sources of standing water.
So all you have to do is go over there and squeeze that while they're
Well,
underwater
that's why
and they'll
people
die.
put soap in the water, because the soap gets on the top of the water and it blocks their little breathing holes.
I hate mosquitoes. but
mass genocide of mosquitoes with soap.
the idea of little baby mosquito like scuba divers is just really cute to me.
Nope.
Until you see them
Play-
and you're like, you guys are nightmare
Play
creatures.
play Fallout and then run into some blood bugs and see a mosquito blowing up to the size of your fucking face. Then you will not like mosquitoes ever again.
At the top of the podcast, did you guys see the trailer for the HBO Watchmen?
Yeah. It premiered before Game
No.
of Thrones this week.
I did not.
Oh, well, the full trailer did? I think the trailer premiered yesterday.
Oh, then no, I have not seen the full trailer.
It looks really, really cool because it looks like it's a sequel to Watchmen. Like it looks like it takes place after the end of the first movie, or it's gonna have elements like, or it's gonna be taking place in the past and the future. I don't know.
Like
It looks
split
really
between,
fucking
yeah.
cool.
I wasn't a huge fan of the Watchmen movie.
I wasn't
Really?
either, but I loved the
Yeah,
comic.
I'm not a huge fan of the. I don't know who directed Watchmen.
Zack Snyder,
Is he the same dude who directed
Justice League, and
no,
Man of
no,
Steel.
Sin City?
No.
Because I feel like Watchmen has like a more of a Sin City vibe than it does Justice League or Batman versus Superman. I actually enjoyed Batman versus Superman, and I like the direction that took. But like I feel like Watchmen had
What?
I feel like Watchmen had way more of like a Sin City vibe, and I don't like the way Sin City shot. Not the black and white. I just don't like the cuts and the angles.
the
and
feel
stuff.
for it, yeah.
Sin City was directed by Frank Miller, Quentin Tarantino, and Robert Rodriguez, according to this. But you know what Watchmen is sort of shot like? 300.
I also don't like that either.
Yes.
I did not. I don't like
Yeah.
that. I don't like that style of shooting.
No,
I don't like the whole. We need to capture a painting in every scene.
Yeah.
I just don't like that.
I don't like the movie either, but I love the comic.
Oh, I do too. Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think I still have a first edition of Watchmen.
Wow. That's probably worth a shit ton of money.
You say first edition?
Yeah, I
Oh,
have
wow.
because I mean it came out when we were collecting comics. Watchmen came out in the 90s.
85?
Yeah. Was it 85?
I think so.
It was not early 90s.
So now you got to sell it once this HBO show just
No,
takes off.
no, because I mean, I've got
Actually,
a lot.
it might have been the 90s. I think it takes place.
I think it's like 1990 something.
Yeah, I think you're right.
91.
Keep talking.
Okay.
I'll look it up.
I have that, and I have a lot of comics. It's weird. I have that. I have Walking Dead #1 because that's when we were collecting comics. So
1986 to 1987.
Is it when it ran?
Yeah.
And that's it? It only ran for a year?
yeah, it wasn't.
It's only like 12 issues.
It's not long.
Oh.
Yeah,
know
it's
that.
very short.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the first edition graphic novel. They compiled them all into.
Well, then, I mean, that's probably late 80s, early 90s.
maybe early 90s. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
have the individual comics.
Oh, well, I mean,
I just have the
but that first edition.
Yeah, I have that
graphic
first
novel's
edition graphic
probably-
one. But then, like, I have Watchmen, Walking Dead #1 because that was 1996, 1997, something like that. 98.
It's probably worth something.
At graded, it's worth $2,500.
Damn.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's very much a lot.
I don't know why. Initially when you said, all I heard was 25 at first, and I was like, no, that's not that much.
$25.
I mean, but like for a comic, $25 is not bad.
no,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not.
which why I was gonna be like,
That,
I mean,
you
that's
know,
okay, sure.
Yeah, that's 4 times the price or 5 times the price.
It's like my brain just it shut off for a second when you said 100.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't listened to us before, we are a podcast about video games. We record weekly, and we are usually up on Sundays. We start the show the same segment every single week. Let's get into the news. First up, after a leak on their store, Ubisoft has revealed Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Breakpoint is set on the fictional Archipelago, the group of islands
That's not fictional.
of Aurora
Oh,
in the Pacific Ocean.
got it. It's a fake island that is part of the real Archipelago Islands.
No, I think it's a fictional archipelago. Archipelago?
I think you're.
Archipelago.
What do you think that is?
What do you mean? What?
Oh my God, you're screwing me up now.
I know what it is. It's a set of islands, isn't it?
And it's real. Those are real.
No, but I'm saying that it's a separate
Right.
one.
The Aurora is a made up island that are yes. Okay.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page.
Yes.
Got it.
What? You're about to call me stupid. I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't trying to call you stupid.
What do you think of what it is? Set for release on October 4th for PC, Xbox One, and PS4, the game will follow on from Wildlands by allowing full 4-player co-op across its stealth action-focused open world. That's a lot of fucking buzzwords in one sentence. It will also launch with a PvP mode. New features include a class system, although you can swap between classes freely, loot in the open world, light survival elements, and prone camo, the ability to slather yourself in mud to avoid detection. Post-launch, the game will add in-game raids.
Raids in a Ghost Recon game?
I mean, if it makes sense for Destiny, I feel like it makes sense for Ghost Recon.
No, Ghost Recon's all one shot, one kill.
I guess
there are no health bars in Ghost Recon.
But to be fair, most things in Destiny raids are one shot, one kill until you get to the bosses.
Right, but that's the fun part of raids are the bosses. Clearing the trash isn't fun. It can be. But the mechanics of a boss fight are what are fun in raids. How do you do mechanics of a boss fight in a Ghost Recon game where
you fight a helicopter? A
boat? Well,
but
that's just boring. Division already proved those are boring.
I mean,
you think so?
Oh yeah, like tank fights are boring in the Division.
Wildlands had that Alien DLC. He was kind of a.
It was a predator. It wasn't an alien.
You're right. It was Predator.
Yeah, so it's very different.
I would.
So just more predators.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, but that's sort of okay. So you're right. I guess that one shot, one kill is kind of what Ghost Recon is about.
Yeah, 100%.
But I guess we're looking at. I would hope that they would stay true to their gameplay, but also fit raids to fit their gameplay.
Yeah, I was just interested,
and that we could sort of have a new version of a raid.
Sure, I'm interested to see what it is because the appeal to Ghost Recon is the one shot, one kill, where 4 of you surround a encampment, and everybody takes a sniper tower. Right, there's 3 sniper towers. 3 people can take it down. 1, 2, 3, boom! Shots fired. Super silent. Snipers are down. We can move closer. And then the idea of just getting in and pop, 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 and hopefully it all goes off without a hitch, and you clear an entire encampment without anybody knowing you were there. Mm-hmm. That in a raid sounds interesting. I just don't know how they're gonna pull it off because the word raid very much implies it's like there's gonna be a boss at the end of this that could drop really good loot. Which is also weird because there's not loot in Ghost Recon.
Well, there wasn't.
Yeah, there wasn't. I'm interested. I'm super interested in shit like that. That sounds cool.
It does sound a lot like Division, though.
Yeah, I think if you can make a game that kind of bridges Ghost Recon and Division into one weird melded mashup, I think that sounds cool.
Yeah, well, and I think I always wanted to jump into Ghost Recon, but by the time that I was ready, you guys were done with it.
It's so good.
But when you're talking about Ghost Recon versus Division, I think that Ghost Recon fits what I like out of a real
100%.
world military shooter a little bit more.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think it has a longevity that Division can have, but for sure, I agree with you.
Yeah, Wildlands was the one that you and Rich played a lot of, right?
Yeah, Rich played a ton of that game.
Yeah. Next up, to help hype up the release of Elder Scrolls Online, next expansion, Elsewhere, the Bethesda Netherlands team created a brief pen and paper adventure set on the border between Cyrodiil and Elsewhere. But that adventure appears to borrow heavily from a published D&D adventure known as The Black Road. A comparison between the two works reveals an almost line-by-line copy, with synonyms substituted to avoid direct copying. Bethesda has since taken down the references to the module on social media, while an internal investigation takes place.
Burn.
The files are still available via Dropbox for those interested in checking it out.
How hard is it to write your own story?
Especially just like a fantasy story. It's
especially a D&D adventure. It's really not that hard.
Especially in a world,
ask the DM over here.
Especially in a world that's literally been written since 1996. Mm-hmm. This entire world of Elder Scrolls you can fucking peanut butter your balls deep in this shit, dude. There's a ton of lore in Elder Scrolls. How do you fuck up a little one-shot module? Mm-hmm. I don't get it. Whatever.
I want to pull up lines.
And then to be caught doing it.
Let's see, hold on.
I'm trying to remember I don't remember who said it, but someone, I think, initially tweeted out about it from Wizards of the Coast and said that, I think it was something along the lines of that awkward feeling when a big company steals your shit or something like that. It was very direct that he was they were like, yeah, they stole our shit.
Wow.
I was like, oh,
that's crazy.
Okay.
I just don't understand. I don't understand how you think you can get away with that as a big company. That's the part that blows me away.
Yeah, I guess, sure. That, and to me, the big part is like, I mean, you guys have an entire team of people writing stories all the time.
Yeah.
And you've knocked them out of the park with ESO. ESO's stories are awesome. The writing staff on ESO is way better than the writing staff at Bethesda.
Yeah.
You know what Bethesda proper, I mean. And it's like, what do you guys do? Was this an idea and somebody just dropped the ball hard on it and then went home and was like, oh, I really like this D&D module from 1988. I'll just change the Golden Road to the Black Road.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So here are the first 2 sentences of the Black Road. There's nothing like the desert to make people feel small and insignificant. In every direction, huge dunes roll across the landscape, and an even bigger sky looms above. Now here's the first part to the ESO. Nothing beats the desert to make people feel small and unimportant. In every direction, enormous dunes roll across the landscape, and an even larger empty air skies above it.
It's like I've been seeing advertisements online for some English, like it's a new online place where you can go write all your reports.
Yes, the essay writing
Yeah, the
thing.
essay writing thing. And it's like, it'll go through and show you synonyms for words to make you sound a lot more smart than you actually are. And like, I'm not kidding. That's
90% of report writing.
that's
lot more
literally
smarter.
what it is. It's like called quarterly or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, but that's it. I feel like that's what they did. They just imported the PDF, and then quarterly or whatever that program is went in there and just changed everything.
Well, it reminds me of those memes that I guess is popular right now. The one where it's like, hey, copy my homework, but change it a little.
Yeah, sure.
And like, so
Yeah,
that way they don't know
100%,
we're cheating. And it's like,
ESO's
it's clearly
guys
it's the same
wearing
thing.
like almost the same exact
Oh my God,
outfit.
ESO's the bully in high school that copied our homework.
And of course, it would
Isn't
be
that,
from
like,
of D&D.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
After Anthem, EA's latest big release that failed to live up to expectations, the company is planning to make changes to its development and release strategy. PC Gamer reports that EA's CEO Andrew Wilson talked about some of the problems faced in the industry when it comes to developing huge games like Anthem during the company's latest financial results conference call. Quote, "The reality is, it's not just an EA challenge, it's an industry-wide challenge." He's 100% right. You're moving from what was initially a BioWare game, which would be somewhere between 40 and 80 hours of offline play, to 40 to 80 hours of offline play. I feel like every time I say offline, it's like with a lisp.
I'm not even sure what you're saying right now.
Plus 100 or 203 hours of Elder game that happens with millions of players at scale online. You should expect that we will start testing things like soft launches, the same things that you see in the mobile space right now. And it also comes down to changing how we communicate with players. Our entire marketing organization now is moving out to presentation mode and into conversation mode, and changing how we interact with players over time.
It seems like that's obvious, right? Like, that's how things should have been done. We're in 2019. We have games of service.
Games with service.
Yes. And that's how you
Games as service.
Game service. But that's how you continue to grow your game. It's a conversation. You're not presenting things. I don't know. It's like EA seems like a little late to the game there.
No, I mean, but like I think that they're missing the point. I think because like if you look at the Anthem subreddit, like prior to launch, and even shortly after launch, like BioWare was super in touch with their community. They were communicating super well. They were going back and forth and elaborating and explaining things. Like that was the whole big conversation that Chris and I had at the beginning of this year, was me not believing in this game and Chris being like, but BioWare's out there like talking to people. I think the issue is that you launched a game that wasn't complete, or a game that needed a little bit more time to ruminate. And so for EA to sort of peg this down to communication, I think is unfair to BioWare.
Well, sure.
Right.
Well, I mean, I've said this publicly on here. I don't think it's EA's fault that this game is the way it is. You know, EA gave it time. EA is just like any other business, right? Any other boss of a business. Let's take the sign shop, right? You know, Sandy will say, hey, we need to get this order done by this time. This is what we've discussed with the customer. This is when it needs to be done. And, you know, hopefully you give them enough time to do that. And EA gave BioWare 6 years to develop a game, and BioWare dropped the ball hard. That Kotaku article proved that BioWare dropped the ball really, really hard. Good on EA for stepping up and kind of even like making a statement about this. I agree they're going in the wrong direction. I think the communication is there. But I don't think this is EA's fault. I don't think this is EA's mess to clean up. I really think it's BioWare's mess to clean up.
I agree with that, but I think the one place where EA dropped the ball was trying to get a game out before a financial quarter. It's that like anyone that's looking at this game knows that it needed more time. It's not a secret, like that's the reality of what this game is. And so when you start getting dollar signs in your eyes, that's when you lose a project. And also like EA it should have like, yes, BioWare fucked up and I'm definitely not denying that, but EA should have been there to sort of wrangle the project.
Yeah. I mean, I just like kind of how Chris said, like you have deadlines for a reason. And I mean, they gave them what I would feel like plenty of time to complete a game.
6 years is more than enough time to complete.
Right. I mean, I would assume, right? But
there's a difference between launching a Dragon Age versus a games of service. Like, if you're trying to build a game that you want to last for 10 years, regardless of how much time you've given someone, yes, 7 years is an inordinate amount of time, and I agree with that. But you're building a platform. You have to give that platform time. Disney didn't just release Disney Plus, a week after they announced it, like they could have. They're putting the time in to make sure it's a service worth investing in.
Sure, but there's a lot of small nuances that you have to look at with that statement, because like the biggest thing is they already, as far as a mechanical and coded standpoint, the game was already ready. Someone at BioWare was like, we're just going to start from scratch in an engine that's almost impossible to build in, when they already had it with Mass Effect Andromeda.
Again, I'm not saying that any of this is wrong. And I'm not saying that EA takes the brunt of the blame. And I agree with both of you 100%. What I'm saying is that EA, as the person that chooses when games are coming out, if they want to build a platform, they need to make sure that platform has a solid foundation before it launches.
Right.
Sure.
And EA chose not to do that. And now I think they're missing the point.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
This statement is more geared towards like acknowledging the problems post-launch, whenever the problems were even before the game even launched.
Yeah, sure. I also think even what you're saying, I think a lot of blame is also on BioWare, because they showed Andrew Wilson an early build of what Anthem was supposed to be, and he was like, this is not good. And he came back, and instead of them showing him the game, they showed him a small vertical slice, and never was open and honest saying, this is just the beginning, right? This isn't the actual. They weren't honest with him.
Right.
So Andrew Wilson walks out of there going, man, Anthem's almost done. We're gonna be good. We're good on the February 22nd release, when BioWare should have probably just spoke up and be like, actually, we've gone from the ground up, but we need more time or whatever.
They basically showed.
There's a lot of bad things that happen.
To be fair, though, they showed him a proof of concept.
Sure.
It's like, here.
To be fair, that's also kind of shitty management on EA's side too, right?
Sure,
like
yeah,
if you've hired me to do a project
and you're not following up,
project,
sure.
You're not just gonna like see a 20-minute
Sure,
segment
yeah.
of a project and then walk away from it. You're gonna want to take a look at it,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, to an extent, but like if I had like the repertoire that EA has with BioWare, like right before Anthem, we were like, hey, it's BioWare, right? Hey man, it's gonna be fine. Mass Effect is not a bad game. I think Mass Effect is a great game. The only reason Mass Effect got flack is because of YouTube and games media. Yeah, but if I'm EA and I'm looking at BioWare for hell, EA goes back with BioWare to but when Lucasfilm when LucasArts shut down. But it's a long time.
Was it really that way though? Because they closed a studio and canceled Mass Effect for like at least until Casey Hudson came back.
Yeah,
after
maybe
Mass Effect Andromeda.
Sure, maybe, but Anthem sold. I think Anthem sold better than Mass Effect. I think EA just looks at sales. I don't think they really look at. I think they do look at fan reception, but I think they look at sales, and they saw Mass Effect Andromeda sales never even hit 3 million, and they're like, "Oh, this is shut it down. Like, there's no point anymore." You know what I mean? Yeah. Where Anthem sold, what was it, 6 million in the first month, something like that. That's pretty damn good for an unknown or brand new IP.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just one giant clusterfuck of a situation.
Yeah, no. And again, like I think you guys are 100% right about EA taking the brunt, or not EA, BioWare taking the brunt of the blame for this. But
However, I do like the direction that EA thinks that they're going in. I understand their intentions. I think they're just wording it weird. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, there is a part of that we didn't talk about the whole beta phase, right?
Sure,
like,
yeah.
You know, they're obviously talking about launching games in the same way that like
exactly.
Bethesda has been doing Elder Scrolls Blades.
Yeah, and he was thinking, they were talking about like a soft launch, and I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's a console thing. You know, that's like Steam Greenlight. I'm not sure if I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work on consoles well. I don't think it will. I would rather not pay $40 or $30 for a game in alpha and help them test it, especially on a console, right? You know what I mean?
The Xbox preview program has been working pretty well for a while.
Okay, well, but do you have games like Assassin's Creed and Ghost Recon coming out on there?
But the AAA space doesn't do that.
Right, then that's what I mean. I don't know if I want that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I want that.
Well, that kind of does not to jump on like the whole like EA is bad train, but that kind of does play into that too, because then it's like they're getting their money ahead of time, basically. Like they're getting their money for
I guess
like an unfinished game.
I guess
I don't know.
Mine's just coming from a weird consumer standpoint. It's like I'd rather just give you $60, give me a finished game, and let me enjoy it.
But don't you have that option in a preview program?
Yeah, I guess, but I think
you don't have to buy the game at the $30 price point.
Sure, but then I feel dirty because there's people playing it before me. I'm also there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know me. I like having a game on day one. I like being in there day one, playing Division or playing Destiny or whatever the hell it is. But knowing that I don't want to beta test a game. Beta testing's different. That's free, right? It's 100% free. That's fine. I get to try the game and report bugs. I know what I'm getting into, but I should never feel like I want to pay to beta test.
I'm 100,000% down for this because I think that you have games like PUBG and Risk of Rain and what's that? That's Astroneer. And a bunch of other games that I'm forgetting that all. Warhammer. What's the rat one? Vermintide. And now they have a Warhammer game that's like Diablo that's in that early test phase. I think that you have a lot of games like that have really changed over the course of a period of time thanks to community feedback. And you're not, as a player, you don't have to do that. But for early players like you and me, like, man, if I had a chance to be playing Anthem a year earlier,
would you pay for it though? That's my issue. I don't want to.
But like a game like Division 2, right? A game that an IP that I don't really care about as much that I still really want to play. I wouldn't drop $30 to jump into that.
Sure, I guess. Or we can just get to a point like Division 2 where it launches day one and it's great.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I was going to say. It's almost like this is, other than like face value, like title, like is that any different than what already happened? Releasing a game that still has problems and we're still taking feedback and we're still going to be working on it, is that any different than saying, hey, this is a soft launch of this game?
I think that's a fair point, and I think that that's actually the problem that we're looking at, right? Is we're looking at this game dropped a year earlier, $30, you're in a beta phase for it, but you're contributing feedback, versus a game launching a year later at $60, and now it's basically on ice, and we have to wait for the developer to make it work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
sure, but
we're in the beta test phase. We are in the early access version of
Anthem. I would be interested to see if this is just going to cause EA or whoever else decides to do soft launches for AAA like console games. I'd be interested to see if that encourages releasing their games sooner, like whenever they're definitely not finished, and then that just buys them more time because now they don't have like a hard like this is whenever it's going live date.
I think we need to look at it the same way that it's been for Xbox Preview and Steam Greenlight, which of course there are bad examples of Steam Greenlight, but I think most of the time that good games that survive that period aren't exploitative and launch at a fair price. And until they take advantage of that, like I don't necessarily know that we should hold that against them just yet.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I don't mind betas. I think betas are fun because it's a vertical slice of a game, right? I think that's actually a lot of fun. I just don't know if I'd like paying $30 a year early to play a game where it's just going to be like, fuck, here we go again.
But
then there's like an excuse of like, well, it's a beta, can't get mad.
But doesn't it,
or like a soft launch thing?
Doesn't it irritate you that like all three of us dropped $60 on a game that in a year from now will likely. I mean, they're still
sure. That's one
committing to
example. That's one
supporting it.
example.
No, it's not.
Because I can think
Destiny
of a
1, Destiny 2,
we got
Division.
we got 2 years out of Destiny.
Sure, but
That's a lot different than
games,
Anthem.
All 4 of these games, Anthem, Division, Destiny, Destiny 2,
No.
all of them launched in a rough state and really didn't come together until a year or 2 after launch.
No, it does not bother me because I don't think Destiny or Division 2 Destiny 2 launched in rough states. I think both those games launched and they were fine, and we got 2 years out of Destiny before they kind of kicked the bucket for us.
We got a year.
A year, sorry, you're right. About a year and a half.
Also with a $30 expansion pass.
Sure. Sure, which is
that they released for free to every other
sure,
player.
I have no problem paying $30 for expansions. I paid $60 every time a new WoW expansion comes out. I have no problem with that stuff.
Well, and I guess that's what confuses me about your argument is that like I know you're okay with that stuff, but putting $30
because I'm paying for a game that's already done. I'm paying for a game that I know when I log in, bar the weird random disconnects and shit. I'm paying for a game that when I log in, I know I'm not going to be, my progress is going to be hindered because it's in alpha or beta stages. I don't want to go play a game and put 20, 25 hours into it, and we're in this early soft launch beta alpha phase, and all of a sudden that 20 or 25 hours is just gone because of some game-breaking bug that could have just been fixed, that it will be fixed when the game actually launches a couple years later. Does that make sense?
I guess. I just don't know. I personally don't know of any game in early access, aside from the games that are obviously like your progress will not be saved, we'll reset it, and they're upfront about it. I don't know any games where it's like Risk of Rain 2 is a good example of that, where all of your stuff is carrying over. Or
sure.
Vermintide was like that as well.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the game-breaking bugs that testers get paid to find in alpha.
No, I know what you're saying. I'm just saying.
And
that
so
I don't know that of any early access game that launched in that condition.
But that's because early access games are a lot of indie games. We're not talking like early access launching Assassin's Creed or Ghost Recon or Division. But when we get into that spectrum where we start early launching and soft launching AAA titles where those bugs exist, where it's like game breaking and it's devastating to have something like that happen. Now it's like, I don't want to be a part of that. I'd rather just pay $60 when the game comes out.
Well, and then the game will come out at $60.
Sure. 100%. But by that time, right. Let's take a games as service as example. Let's say Division, or let's say Destiny 3 soft launches. Right. Destiny 3 soft launches a year before it actually comes out. That means when it actually hard launches, you're going to see a diminished player base because players already played for a year. And that's when your biggest crowd of Destiny finally drops, is after a year. It's been proven 2 games in a row. So you have this soft launch where a lot of hardcore Destiny players are getting in and they're playing, and even casuals are getting in and they're playing because they only have to pay $30 to play Destiny 3. They get a year out of it. Destiny 3 hard launches. I would say not all of them, maybe not even a majority, but a big number will not play Destiny 3 because they already got a year out of it. So now the people who waited just for the main game, the final game to finally launch, now you just have a diminished player base, and matchmatching takes an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
I'm all typing hypothetically and theoretically things that could happen.
But a real world example of that not happening is PUBG. Like PUBG crashed after Fortnite became popular.
Sure.
But that 6-month period after the game launched out of early access, and it was a big deal. And on top of that, the way that they sort of extended that hype period was the way that they launched it on console, right?
Sure,
They launched it on Xbox and then PS4.
But counterpoint to PUBG is battle royales are a fad right now.
But
that's a big factor in why PUBG, your example, works.
But I think games of service are a big fad right now. I think that's 90% of the reason why people jumped on Anthem and why it sold so many copies is because there are a lot of people out there that really like that Destiny or Division model, but we're looking for something new.
Man, I wouldn't call games of service as a fad, man. Like when you've got Destiny sporting maybe 600,000 players a week, and Fortnite sporting 14 million a week, that I wouldn't call to give the service a fad.
I think
Maybe
the
a trend. I mean,
No,
I think the fact that every company wants a games as service and finds this as a profitable
I think it's
business
I think it's
model.
profitable for companies. I just put it in the gaming community. I wouldn't call it a fad like PUBG, like Battle Royale is. Battle Royale is just like this giant fucking. I mean, Battle Royale is the Beatles right now. You know what I mean? Like the Beatles in 1969. That's Fortnite, and that's what's the Respawn one? Apex. Yeah, I don't know though.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes of EA.
I would try
doing
it.
this.
I would 100% try early access. I just wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I think all that being said, like I think all of us can agree it's good for people to try new things. I mean,
Well, I think it's good to launch a game finished,
of course,
and if an early access program helps that, I'm for it.
right? If we get a better product in the end because of a practice,
I think if it makes a
Sure.
game come out and it's better, then I'm 100% down
Sure.
for
Right.
it. And honestly, like at that point, as a consumer, I don't care about how many people are playing. Like I really don't. It doesn't
mean, you
matter
should.
to me. But I don't, because if the game is bad, people are going to stop playing it anyways. Anthem
I see
is
what
the
you mean.
example of that.
yeah, if it's a good game, whenever it finally fully launches or whatever, you should expect people will still
Sure.
want to
And
play.
honestly, if BioWare had gotten out of their own ass and actually fucking gotten feedback from people and taken that feedback seriously, we might not be in the situation that we're in now. So I'm down for it. If it makes the game better, if people are going to start exploiting it, then don't do it. Like whatever. Republican U.S. Senator Josh Hawley announced Wednesday his plans to introduce a bill that would ban microtransactions in both console and mobile games, according to The Hill. The legislation, which was outlined on Wednesday as the Protecting Children from Abusive Games Act, is focused on those under the age of 18 years old who are purchasing in-game goods through marketed free-to-play games that have easy in-app purchases for kids to buy in order to release more content. In a statement, Hawley said, quote, social media and video games prey on user addiction, siphoning our kids' attention from the real world and extracting profits from fostering compulsive habits. No matter this business model's advantages to the tech industry, one thing is clear: there is no excuse for exploiting children through such practices, end quote.
This was kind of something that I not necessarily predicted, but I think beginning of the year, this was one of my things that I talked about, that with other countries making this push for limited like microtransactions and loot boxes and whatnot, I felt like that was going to happen in the U.S. and now we have this proposed law.
I'd be super surprised if it passes.
I don't think it will.
He also said in his bill it says free to play.
Does it?
Yep. It also doesn't which would not include Overwatch. It would not include Division or Destiny or any of those things.
Right.
It
Just
wasn't
it's geared towards like
free to play
basically
games.
Fortnite.
Yeah. Also, I don't think the bill itself. It says microtransactions, but they mean loot boxes. Like because
it's talking about addiction.
A lot of news reports are saying microtransactions, but there's no difference in a microtransaction than going to a store and buying a pack of Pokemon cards. But a loot box is different, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Loot boxes, you don't know what you're getting when you pay for it, so it could be a gambling thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because there's nothing
maybe
wrong.
Pokemon cards might be the worst thing, like a candy bar, right?
Right.
Oh man, I want a Snickers. I'm gonna go to the gas station buy a Snickers. I know what I'm buying. So in a game like Apex Legends, where you can buy skins, I know what I'm buying. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. There's nothing wrong with a game offering you more stuff once you already have the game.
But loot boxes is a completely separate thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I've read a lot of news articles where they're like microtransactions banned. It's like, no, that's not what that bill's saying. That bill's specifically targeting 18 and lower. Number one, non-consenting adults. That's not the right terminology.
Non-consenting human beings.
Yeah, non-consenting human beings. Not adults. So anybody under the age of 18. Number one. Number two, it's the things that target that gambling addiction, which microtransactions don't.
I thought the bill also covered like the fact that with the way that most and it seems specifically to be going after mobile games, not necessarily console games.
Yeah.
But it seems like the thing that they're targeting when it comes to microtransactions is you can walk into a store and there's a Pokemon card section or a Snickers bar section, but the store doesn't run up to you with a fucking board that says buy a
100%.
Snickers bar and divert your attention from what you're doing.
Stripes does.
Yeah.
Stripes is like $3 for $3 Reese's peanut butter cups. God damn it!
You
Fine.
Can't say no to that.
I know.
But I think we've all had this experience with a game with microtransactions where you're playing and then it pops up an ad that you physically have to click out of.
It's free. Free to play games are bad about that.
Yeah.
Very, very bad.
I think
about
mobile
that.
is really bad about that.
Yeah, I've seen some too that are like very even more manipulative.
Archipelago.
Yeah.
Archipelago. There's some that are more tricky.
Archipelago.
I don't know.
But there's no.
How
but
often do you ever say that word out loud?
Enough to where I know how to pronounce it.
Well, look at you.
I
have a degree.
talking about islands.
But there are some that like legitimately try to just trick kids into accidentally spending money. You know, like I've seen even YouTube. I think people were complaining about YouTube running ads before some videos for. So it was like a fake thing to where like get free Fortnite money and stuff, and it was coming up on
It was
YouTube.
an ad on YouTube.
Yeah,
Wow, YouTube allows that shit.
Have
they
you
did.
seen
I
the
think it got
fucking
taken down.
Pokemon YouTube ads? They're literally like these knockoff mobile games that are
Oh
specifically
yeah,
taking
I have
assets
seen
from
those.
Pokemon.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like they do shit like that all the time.
Yeah, but this one was very much like download this thing and click this button and do this. It's very tricky. That M word, manipulative.
You know, it's really easy to trick people. We were at Thundercloud one day, totally off subject, but it's super easy to trick people. We were at Thundercloud one day, and this woman comes in, middle-aged, smart. It's got to be semi-smart, at least free thinking.
She made it to her middle ages.
Yeah. And she walks in with this she's like, I have a coupon for my Thundercloud thing. And I caught a peek at her screen, and it was just full of pop-ups. It was one of those fake coupon things. It's like, how do you fall for that?
Yeah,
And you expect Thundercloud to know, like, and they was like, well, I guess we'll tell you what, we'll give you like 25% off your purchase.
Oh, that's nice.
It's like, that's not what this says. It's like, yeah, but those aren't like he's like, those aren't real.
Working at an amusement park, I got multiple people who would come up to me and like, I have this coupon on my phone, and I could clearly see that they had just Googled free,
For sure, yeah.
like free amusement park tickets.com or
Yeah.
some shit, and it would just be like a random, like she'd be showing me, it's like, see, it says 15% off. I'm like, lady, like. There's a close ad button like right there. It's like the Google like, why am I seeing this ad button? Like, people. It doesn't take a kid to get tricked by.
Yeah, I know you're right. But
things.
this, I agree with Trey. I don't think the United States. I don't think
ready.
any United States legislation understands video games enough to even come close to making this pass.
It's also we're a capitalist society. We support free markets and businesses sort of having the freedom. And even though a Republican introduced this bill, the only thing this is asking for is fucking video game lobbyists. Like that's what we're gonna get from this is representatives from EA and Activision, like in fucking Congress lobbying.
Probably.
It's annoying. Anyways, this is the news I'm most excited for this week, because after this it gets depressing. Persona 5's expanded re-release, Royal, will include an extra semester of gameplay that goes, quote, beyond the expectations of those who have experienced the volume of Persona 4 Golden, end quote. His comment comes from the latest issue of Weekly Famitsu, which features an interview with the game's producer, Kazuhisa Wada, and director Daiki Ito.
Wow. I don't even have it open, and I just know that was just bad.
He's close.
Ito, where was I at? Previously directed Persona 4 Golden, and so has experience developing expanded re-releases of Persona games. The latest issue of Famitsu also explains the new Play Assist feature, which calculates your social interactions and confidant levels and automatically suggests people and places you should visit next. This should help players min-max their characters with more efficiency. In addition, Wada and Ito say that they're making it easier to earn experience points so you can play at a better, quote, tempo, end quote. The developer confirms that Persona 5 Royal is a standalone game and that Persona 5 save data cannot be used with the game. However, apparently there will be some kind of bonus for those who have the original Persona 5 save data. That's a bummer. But I think Persona 4 Golden is one of the best things to ever happen to the re-release of the game. So it's cool that they have the guy that was in charge of that working on this. It's also just really cool to see that they're putting more effort into it. Because it could be like any other re-release that's just kind of crappy.
Yeah, well, and adding that play assist feature, because wasn't it, I think it was you that was talking about how you would look at a guide, or there was a calendar of people and things that you should do every day, so that way you don't miss any of the interactions or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's cool that that's somewhat being built into the game.
Yeah, but it's also kind of, there's a lot of things in a Persona 5 game or in a Persona game that's not necessarily worth doing if you don't really care about it. So the fact that the game is sort of pointing you towards things that you want to do, that's really neat. But yeah.
I never played Persona, so
you should. I think
You won't like it.
Yeah, you probably won't. But I think you would like it. I think you just wouldn't finish it because you'd be like, this is too much. But I think Persona 5 sort of has this universal appeal to it that like even someone like me who isn't into super Japanese things loves it. So,
Hey, how you doing with Red Dead?
No,
Yep.
NetherRealm Studios, the developer behind Mortal Kombat and the Mortal Kombat and Injustice franchises,
More like Mortal Charge for skins.
has responded to allegations of what one former employee referred to as, quote, predatory and abusive behavior, end quote. The allegations consist of grievances typically brought up wow, what the fuck is wrong with me?
in the discussion.
Brought up in the discussion around crunch culture in games and an exceedingly long work week. Mismanagement, scheduling, and exploitative wages, as well as other discriminatory behaviors, like eliminating a woman's restroom due to a low percentage of female employees. In a statement to Variety, the studio explained they, quote, greatly appreciate and respect all of our employees and prioritize creating a positive work experience. As an equal opportunity employer, we encourage diversity and constantly take steps to reduce crunch time for our employees. We are actively looking into all allegations as we take these matters very seriously and are always working to improve our company's environment. There are confidential ways for employees to raise any concerns or issue, end quote.
Seems like a theme. It's like every big game that comes out, we're getting more and more allegations of abusive work or like crunch weeks and whatnot.
I wrote for my computer ethics class, I wrote a paper about crunch in video games. It was really interesting because in 2002, there was this blog started by this person, EA Spouse, and the blog basically details all of the shit that her husband had to go through during the development of some unnamed EA game. And the crazy thing about those allegations is that now, 17 years later, the allegations are still the same. And, I think the theme that I started writing on in my paper was just like, the issue with video game crunch really has little to do with what we on the outside think about it. I mean, there are laws that aren't in place to protect employees, but I think the bigger issue with crunch is the cultural side of it. The fact that people don't stand up against it. And so in order for that change to happen, people have to give a shit and want to make that change. But I think it was really interesting how NetherRealms didn't flat out deny it. I think that's a smart move on their part, because anytime a developer or a developer or a publisher flat out denies any sort of wrongdoing on their part, they're instantly torn apart.
Right. Well, and that's also whenever they invite more accounts of like, oh, well, I can back up what this person said because I was there too. And it just it snowballs. But I think it's interesting that, and this has been going on for a while, I think it's interesting that there's a spotlight on crunch and overloaded like work weeks and stuff in the gaming industry, when I feel like this is just a problem with I feel like you are going to run into this problem as long as you have deadlines for anything. I mean, you can manage things better and you can reduce it. Not
if it's managed correctly.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's not some sort of mismanagement. I mean, we see that especially, in BioWare and, lots of different examples. But people around the world in a bunch of different industries, not just in entertainment, are forced to work overtime and, work nights and weekends. I mean, it happens.
Sure.
So, but and then there's other obviously bigger allegations like taking away the women's restroom that big if true.
Well, to your point though, I think one of the biggest issues is that like when you're talking about salaried employees in most industries, salaried employees aren't treated this way. But with entertainment, specifically movies and video games, employees are treated this way. And it's because studios can get away with making a salary employee work 100-hour work weeks because there's no laws protecting them, right? But if there was mandatory overtime laws or mandatory, like, hey, if you're working a certain amount of hours a week, you should be an hourly employee instead of a salary employee, you would have you would have less of this happening in the industry, which I also think would sort of be a bad thing. Like the simple truth about crunch, whether or not we like it and whether or not we have strong opinions about it, the reason why we get products as frequently as we do is because of crunch.
Yep.
And so part of that whole problem loops back to consumer expectations.
If this changes for the better of the worker, it's going to negatively affect the consumer. Because so most game cycles, I think we can agree, is anywhere from 3 to 4 years.
3 years, I think, is pretty typical.
We're not going to see if stuff like this happens, which to an extent I think it should.
I agree.
We're not going to get 3-year cycle in games. We're going to get 4, 5, maybe 6-year cycles of games, which isn't a bad thing. But for a consumer, it kind of sucks. You know what I mean? It'd be like, the MCU movies, instead of taking 10 years for them to all come out, they would have taken 20 years for them all to come out. Same amount of movies, just within the span of 20 years instead of 10 years. Not necessarily a bad thing. Kind of sucks for consumers, but we're not the important ones because we're not the ones working our asses off. I do think it's interesting that even in 2002, somebody was creating a blog about what her husband was going through, but her husband never said anything. Does that make sense? And this has been happening for 17 years, but nobody said anything. But in 2019, I think our culture in 2019 sucks. But I think this is something that's really something good is finally coming out of an entitled culture.
Yeah,
17 years ago, the word entitlement would have never even come out of somebody's mouth. Unless we're talking about Richie Rich, right? But in 2019, it's everywhere. Like, people are entitled, right? I'm paying for this coffee. You bring it to my table now. Type entitlement. That is causing this, which is a good thing.
Well, it's also easier to get this information out too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't personally like this entitlement culture, but this is a good thing coming out.
Well,
of
I think it's a side effect of this
Yes.
over liberal video
Yes.
games media.
Yeah.
And there are places where it's negative.
Sure.
Criticizing
a lot of places,
a
yeah.
game set in a historical setting that primarily features white people and saying that it should have had black protagonists.
Or there was a games journalist who criticized Days Gone for all the zombies being white.
Oh man, there was another.
What?
There was another.
That's what you
criticism.
decide to concentrate on?
There were another criticism about the way that they treat the protagonist's wife. Like, apparently when they get married, she says something like really lewd about like riding me like you ride your bike. And then there's like a scene in the game where she's like showing her ass to her husband, and so people were like, "That's not feminist." But that's a negative side effect, right?
Yeah,
but
I think
I think a positive.
People been in straight relationships. That's something that happens.
Yeah, I don't. Anyway,
I show my ass all the time.
I'm like literally like I open Grindr and I get 4 ass pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
So but I think a positive side effect of that liberal environment is looking at fair treatment of workers.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's something that like people can universally get behind.
I 100% agree with that. Like I said, I don't like the entitlement culture of 2019. I think it's negative on so many fronts. But if it can change this, I think that's really, really good.
Yeah, it would be positive change for sure. It's just hard to get people to speak out when like they just don't want to lose their job, or they don't want to be like,
the fear
they don't want to be
Sure.
blacklisted.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about this before. The fear of losing your job is there, which is why a lot of people just go with it. Yeah, just go with it.
Especially whenever they know that there's 100 other people waiting in line for their job that would happily be like, I won't complain.
Yeah.
You can pay me half of what they're getting paid.
Also, just shoving this in here, but instead of giving your, $12 million, $100 million bonuses to your fucking executives, maybe you should turn that into creating staff members. You want to fix crunch, like that's the way you do it. Put more people on a team.
Yep.
And you also don't have to turn a 3-year project into a 6-year project. But
However, too many hands in the pot could be bad. I have no idea. I don't make games.
I don't either.
Imagine you're trying to code something and there's like 15 other dudes trying to help you code this one thing.
Well, see, but the smart part about coding is that like you can take those 6 dudes, and we each are probably good at one thing.
15 dudes.
We can take those 15 dudes. We're each probably good at one thing, and we can each work on separate
Or
things.
there's 26 dudes, and each one of you types A through Z.
Or there's 500,000 of us, and we all write 1 line of code each.
And then you're done in a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Nailed it.
This makes so much sense.
We should totally make games.
There's that one jackass who forgot, like, or who messed up their 1 line of code.
Nah.
You're like, Randy.
You had one job, Randy. Come on.
No, it's gonna be Dale.
I
100%
still-
gonna be Dale.
I still don't understand who decided, like, in history, who decided that CEOs and everybody should get paid X amount of money.
The CEOs did.
It's just crazy to me. I was like, how do you get paid so much money
The
to
boss
do what you
decided
do?
how much is getting paid.
Yeah. Same thing with actors. I have that thought all the time. I'm like, who decided that you should get paid this much money?
Well, I think the idea is that
Now it's just accepted.
the idea is that the leader makes the most amount of money, and that makes sense in some cases, but in a lot of cases it doesn't. All right, we got to. I had to add another news story because I was thinking about Randy Pitchford, and it reminded me.
Oh my god.
Randy.
We'll go since I mentioned Randy Pitchford. Let's
He's
talk about
such a
it.
tool.
This is from Ars Technica. The voice actor of Borderlands Claptrap, Dave Eddings, is going public with allegations of abuse and underpayment against Gearbox and its CEO, Randy
Former
Pitchford.
voice actor.
Former voice actor.
Such a claptrap move.
The allegations, which have drawn partial denials from both Pitchford and the company spokesperson, open up a new front in some messy PR and legal battles of the company and its corporate leader. Basically, just to sum this up, the guy came on and said, "Hey, I was basically doing a bunch of work for Claptrap for free. I was re-recording lines for free." And, maybe instead of giving your $12 million bonus to Randy Pitchford, you can put that into the company to pay your voice actors.
Dave Eddleton, right? Is that his
Dave
name?
Eddings.
Dave Eddings.
Um,
What they didn't report on is Dave Eddings has also been asking his Twitter minions to help him. Just kidding, he's not.
No.
Oh, I was like, that's a...
Randy
But he's
Pitchford.
Claptrap.
Randy
Minion.
Pitchford jumped out and basically was like, this guy's bitter and he's entitled and we were paying him fair and all this other stuff, which I just want to sum up this whole problem with Randy Pitchford, because every week it's something with Randy Pitchford, and every week
He's a
the
tool.
news story leading up to Randy Pitchford exploding is not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal that you misspoke about microtransactions. It's not that big of a deal that you didn't bring Troy Baker back, and it's not that big of a deal that you didn't want to pay Dave Eddings that much money. What makes it a big deal is when you turn around and freak the fuck out about it because you're so afraid of criticism that you have to react negatively to everything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to have an input on everything, Randy Pitchford. No one gives a shit. Like, we don't.
He's a tool.
He's a tool.
Doesn't he hire people to do this? Like,
No, he
you can't
does.
just
No,
hire...
he directly tweets.
No, he does it all on Twitter.
He
That was
wrote
your first mistake.
he wrote like a fucking 100, I'm
14.
exaggerating, 14 like tweets where he's like reply tweeting himself after the Epic Store announcement. And people were mad about it, but no one was like, Randy Pitchford, defend yourself. Like, no one really cared all that much. But of course, he had to come out and make a big deal of it.
Yeah, he's got a lot of free time on his hands.
I always see the reply. It's like, I'm not playing Borderlands now because of this.
Right.
Cool. At least I don't have to deal with your ass.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of
That's
millions.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, Randy Pitchford's is a tool, and you're right. It's not a big deal. Dave Ettins, whatever his name is,
Eddings.
had to have agreed to the pay to keep going, right? So I mean,
that's
there's no legal thing that can happen to you, Pitchford.
Right.
He agreed to his pay.
I'm sure
'cause
he
did
signed.
it.
I'm sure he signed a contract that he probably didn't read.
And you know what? I feel like if you have a problem with the company and fans reach out to you and they're like, hey, why is this other guy playing Claptrap? You have a right to respond, and you have a right to like say, hey, like, I just didn't agree with certain things that were going on in the company.
Sure. You also have a reply. You also have a right to be like, it's none of your business.
I mean, yeah, sure. But like, if you want to respond, you have a right to respond.
Sure.
And I don't think that
Randy
Randy
Pitchford should not
Pitchford
have that
basically
right.
shouting liar at
Yeah.
people.
Randy Pitchford should not have that right.
It is one.
Pitchford-
It is one of your constitutional rights. Your right to respond.
So yeah, like in the last like month or so, Pitchford's like the Trump of video games.
Yes. Yes.
Bold statement.
I wouldn't. I mean, I'm not saying that he's.
Accurate.
I'm not saying that he's as fucking narcissistic or like
Orange.
or fucking racist or bigot like Trump is. But as far as just overall composure of somebody who's in charge of this thing, he's trumping himself out, man.
He's trumping himself out.
So
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I just want to mention something I observed. Whitney came by, and I think she brought food or something, right?
She brought me my gear and a on the grind thing.
She brought you some
Oh,
coffee.
she brought you the on the grind thing.
Yes.
You like on the grind?
Yeah, I've started liking chai tea. with 2 shots of espresso.
How
Never mind, I
millennial
changed
of
my
you.
statement.
Seriously, I was super basic the first time I had it because
Yeah.
oh my God, that's so good.
Last story. Over 150 discontented Riot Game employees walked out of the League of Legends publisher offices in Los Angeles earlier this week to protest the company's stance on forced arbitration. Standing in parking lots on Riot's campus, employees held picket signs and gave impassioned speeches. Quote, "We're asking for forced arbitration to be ended for all past, current, and future Riot employees, including contractors and in current litigation." Today's protest, or the protest earlier this week, appears to be the first labor-related walkout for a large game studio like Riot. The company's management is allowing its employees to participate and has urged managers to be accommodating and understanding. In an email to Kotaku this morning, a Riot representative added, quote, "We respect rioters who choose to walk out today and will not tolerate retaliation of any kind as a result of participating or not."
There are 2 different types of rioters.
Yeah, it's very fitting.
Yeah.
That's basically the gist of this news story.
You know what's funny?
What?
Apparently, before the bombs dropped in Fallout, they were replacing major cities with robots. So all around Fallout, you can even get a weapon called a picket sign that says "humans before robots." It's just funny.
Is that where your brain immediately went?
100%.
Interesting.
I mean, I just don't care enough. I hope they get what they want, but I just don't care enough.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is the next step from what we've already seen. You know,
Yeah.
people speaking out. Now
Sure.
we're getting to.
I think that's the gist of it. I don't necessarily know that I understand or really have a deep care about what they're walking out for.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, okay. Let me change that because that sounds kind of dumb.
Right.
No, it doesn't. I don't care.
There-
I don't think protests ever work. Sometimes
that's true.
sometimes protests can work, especially when you have enough people behind it. But that's for social issues that I don't want to say this doesn't really matter.
So,
but the women's right to vote and the African Americans' right to just exist,
Right.
Those are big fucking deals.
I think it depends on what you consider protests to be like what you consider working. Like,
sure, yeah, 100%.
I think that will this lead directly lead to a change? Maybe not. Most protests don't. Does this get the message out there?
Yeah, I think this.
Yes.
I think this is a situation though. With I don't know how many employees work at Riot, but if 150 people walked out and they only have 175 employees, this is going to work. You know, because they can't just fire everybody. Does that make sense?
It could.
But if 150 people decided to walk out and there's 2,000 people working at Riot, sorry guys,
Yeah, right.
we can replace every single one of you.
So, what I was trying to say about the issue is that the issue is very much a reaction to sexual harassment and people trying to take legal action against the company and being forced into arbitration rather than having the ability to litigate it. So obviously that's something that I guess I understand and would want to support. But I think the bigger part of this is just the fact that, like, we talked earlier about how nothing's going to change unless the employees force it to change.
Sure.
And I think this is an example of employees trying to force it to change.
Which is
Whether or
good.
not it's successful, it's going to give other people ideas.
No. But this is a step in the right direction. This is 100% the step in the right direction. Twitter is not the right direction to do this. Complaining on Twitter and going to your Twitter followers and asking for support is not the way to do this.
Or being an anonymous source.
Or
like a
being an
Kotaku
anonymous
article.
sort of at Kotaku, right? You know, our founding fathers didn't use some sort of hidden social platform to decide that we want to become American, become free from the British Empire, right? That's not how that worked.
Yeah.
They literally got up off their asses and they did something about it. And it comes back to what kind of culture are we living in?
Well,
Are we living in a culture that we want change? We want change, baby. Can you pass me the remote? Yeah, I'm on my couch. We want change.
Well, I think
Or are you going to be the guy who goes out there and says, "Fuck the British Empire. I'm tired of the tyranny. You know, I'll kill a redcoat if I need to."
Who invited Bill Maher? but you know, I think it's a little bit. I think it is a little bit different because if you don't have a group of people that are with you together, you're basically forcing yourself out of the industry. And most tech industries, if you come out as an individual and say something, I think it takes a group of people doing it.
Sure.
And I think, you know, sending an anonymous thing is fine if it's just you.
Sure, but that's just all that does is I don't think I think it brings awareness, but it sure as hell doesn't bring about change.
No, it doesn't bring about change. Awareness is the first step to getting to change.
Sure,
but
if enough
to,
people become aware,
eventually you have to get past the awareness stage.
Yeah.
Like people have been aware of this, as we formerly just said, for 17 years, and the issue hasn't changed at all. So awareness is there, and people care, but it takes groups of people working together in order to get that to happen. Because the individual is never going to risk their lifestyle or their security in their industry if they have to do it by themselves. And they shouldn't have to.
Right. I mean, we kind of saw the same thing happen in Hollywood with the whole like sex trafficking and whatnot, or not necessarily sex trafficking, but all the sex scandals going on that were going on for so long, and everybody knew about it, but nobody really said anything.
Everyone was complacent in it.
Yeah,
and then eventually people were like, "Oh, hey, Harvey Weinstein is actually kind of gross."
Right, and we saw things come of that. People went to jail and whatnot. So
all right,
same thing. Also, I looked up how many employees worked at Riot out of curiosity.
Sure.
Don't know how many work in that specific office, but they do employ over 2,500 people.
Yeah, man. You got 150 people with you, but if I'm like Riot exec, it's like, yeah, I can replace 150 people.
Yeah.
Quick saves.
They did say they were supporting them, though. They said to not give them a hard time.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Quick saves. A short teaser from Microsoft appears to be hinting that an augmented reality version of Minecraft may be coming to mobile. Microsoft promises more information about this project will be released on May 17th.
Did you see people freak the fuck out? Like 2 weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago, Microsoft just tweeted out Xbox.
Yes.
And then they tweeted like this fiery GIF background. And then they tweeted this fiery GIF background revealing scales and what looked like the Targaryen symbol. So people were like, oh my God, they're making a Game of Thrones movie or the Game of Thrones game. And then like yesterday, they unveiled a special Game of Thrones Xbox.
It looks cool though.
No, it doesn't. You can't fucking hype something like that and then just reveal a damn Xbox. Can you imagine a Game of Thrones Obsidian game? I can, but Microsoft can't because they're not smart.
True, but I mean, I thought the Xbox was cool. Anyways, back to this though. Minecraft is big. Minecraft is big again.
No, it's not.
It is though.
It never stopped.
I was gonna say Minecraft never stopped being big.
But I've seen such a resurgence of people just talking about it.
Just gonna throw this out there. I previously was giving Sony a lot of shit for making ugly consoles.
Oh, this one's bad.
Oh, these are hideous.
This one's real bad.
I like them.
That's because you're a
cool.
Game of Thrones fan.
I'm a Game of Thrones fan, and I think they're fucking disgusting.
Yeah,
well,
but
fine.
you're
If I see either one of y'all retweet that tweet, then
but
I won't retweet
there's
that
a big
tweet 'cause I'm not a fucking
because then it gives me more chances to win.
Yeah, but there's a big difference. So you're a Game of Thrones fan and an Avengers fan, but this one cries in Avengers.
I cried in Avengers.
Come on, Trey, help me out here. I'm trying to say you're more independent than Justin.
No,
you can form your own opinion way easier than Justin.
That is 1,000%. No response to your allegations against Justin. I am very independent, which is why I have been shitting on Game of Thrones for the past 3 weeks, because up until this last episode, it's been fucking dreadful.
Yeah, now you're back on the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, because they actually released a good episode. I didn't just support it because it had Game of Thrones on it.
It wasn't just because people were fighting and they're all, oh, my name's Jon Snow.
I want to save some time for Game of Thrones
everything.
at the end of this because I want to bitch about this on a microphone. During the EA earnings call, the company hinted that they may be bringing Apex Legends to mobile. Quote, we are in advanced negotiations to bring Apex to China and mobile, and we will update you on timeframes when those negotiations are concluded.
Advanced negotiation sounds dirty.
EA shared sales projections for their upcoming games during their earnings call. The company expects Jedi Fallen Order to sell between 6 and 8 million units.
Sure.
I feel like that's a low ball, but hey, it's better than like 20 million units in a month.
I don't know. What do you think Force Unleashed sold?
I don't know.
In a time that came out where Star Wars wasn't like...
Well, that's exactly my point, though. That would be my counter argument to whatever number that is that Star Wars wasn't really as big of a deal as when Jedi Fallen Order is coming out.
I don't care about looking it up. There's something else I want to add to quick save whenever you're done.
Electronic. In there. Let me finish.
No, I said I don't know if it's in there because I don't have the notes open.
Electronic Arts is bringing its EA Access subscription service to PS4 this July.
Ooh.
The service will cost $4.99 a month or $29.99 annually, which is a really good price.
Hell yeah, it is.
The original Devil May Cry will be coming to Switch this summer, though no pricing and release date were announced. A new exotic quest was released for Destiny 2 this week. This quest is structured very similarly to the quest for Whisper of the Worm, but the apex of the mission takes place in the ruins of the old tower. Upon completing the quest, players are awarded with Outbreak Perfected, an updated version of the Destiny 1 weapon, Outbreak Prime. And last on my list, a new Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer just released, like minutes before we started. The trailer ends with, quote, more to come in June. Obviously, the trailer is hinting at E3. What is your quick save?
Also just announced minutes before we started this, Bungie posted their weekly TWAB this week at Bungie for Destiny Season of Opulence.
Really?
And the raid is launching day of.
Okay.
That's a pretty big deal.
Mm-hmm. How long did it usually?
That means
usually like what?
Usually
a
the
week?
Friday
Usually the
after
Friday
launch.
after. So you got about 4 days to grind to get to max, to get to level. It says here, Crown of Sorrow will launch 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So instead of 4 days, you'll have about 3 to 4 hours to grind to 715 power before you can hit the first encounter of the
What's
raid.
power? What's now 650?
700. However, Destiny is still a game where your leveling process is fully determined by RNG. So this is just another... People are going to get fucked because that's what happens in Destiny leveling. Somebody's going to go and finish all their milestones in one day and hit 715 while another person goes and does the exact same thing and won't hit 715. And it's really shitty. It's really, really shitty. That's why I stopped playing Destiny.
I'm not. Oh, I'm looking at last.
I wonder
week's,
what
that's
the
why.
thought process is of why they would release it like same day for the raid.
I think there was a pretty big backlash of like streamers played 12 hours a day. So
Gosh, on June 4th.
So just get
Yeah.
some new content like just right away. Or?
No, let me finish. Streamers play like 12 hours a day. So that's 12 hours a day that normal players don't have to grind to try to get to that power level. So streamers have a very big advantage 4 days after the launch of something because they have 12, 24, 48, upwards of 60 to 72 hours of grind to try to get to power level. So they have an advantage in the raid where somebody who can only play like maybe 2 hours a week, they would have never gotten to that level cap. But if it's 4 hours after the raid, that's even playing ground for everybody.
Yeah, the devs
Does that make sense?
The devs' response is the world's first race for a raid is a competitive event. The raid is a challenge geared towards testing a fire team's ability to learn and execute on the mechanics, as well as their ability to overcome enemies and bosses together. Having a short window of time between release and launch allows us to preserve the combat challenge for players making their attempt on day one and get people playing the raid content right away.
Mm-hmm. They want more people to be part of that race. That was a big deal when whatever the last raid called came out is that there was only, I think there was only, I want to say they said like 100 to 200 teams competing for world's first. And that's not a lot of fire teams. But now 4 hours after launch, you're probably going to have 2,000 teams competing for world's first.
That's also just a major flaw with
I think it's cool.
I think it's cool because I think it's a major flaw with raid design is
100%.
that like you set it at max power level.
Max power level 750.
I know
first
but,
encounter 715.
But I'm just saying that like you set it for max power level and you give people a week to grind to do it, and the people that are like Dado, and it's the reason why you see the same teams on the top of leaderboards all the time. They're the ones that have time to do that.
They have time, exactly.
But if you release it on day one, I think there's something to be said about not releasing it at max power level.
Sure. Well, honestly, a simple solution to all of this, and I don't understand why anybody hasn't come up with this. I'm sure I've seen people on Twitter say this, but I just can't believe Bungie hasn't said this. A simple solution to this is release the raid 4 days later, but cap people's power. In the game.
In the
so if like max power in the raid is 750,
cap them at 730.
Cap them at 730. That way, everybody has 4 days to get to 730,
and then
which
take
is
the cap off after the
and then take the
World's
fucking
First.
cap off after World's First, man.
That's smart.
You want a
That's really
competitive?
smart.
I just don't I don't understand. I'm getting in it. Nope. I'm not gonna talk about Destiny.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Game of Thrones. I want
My
to talk
God.
about this real fast.
That's it.
Yeah, so I really love Game of Thrones. I like Chris. I've read all the books. I actually probably love the book universe a little bit more than the TV universe. But I'm not one of those people that was sort of on the side of once they ran out of book content, the show got bad. Because I love the show up until the end of season 6, and I think there are a lot of great moments in season 7. But here's my biggest problem with Game of Thrones: they take season 7, they cut it down to 7 episodes.
Okay.
They take season 8, they cut it down to 6 episodes. And then they take a 2-year fucking break between season 7 and season 8 to give us 2 episodes that should have been in season 7. Because literally all they were doing is introducing people. Also, 2 episodes where no one is fucking commenting on any of the major shit that just happened. Like literally spoilers for Game of Thrones. Dany just lost a dragon. And in the first episode of the season, it's like nothing fucking happened. In fact, if you were a viewer and you forgot that she lost a dragon because you didn't watch the update, I wouldn't blame you because she had absolutely nothing to say about it. Then the 3rd episode happens. Biggest fucking battle in the history of television movies, right? You can't see anything. Not only can you not see anything, but it has literally... When you're talking about the greatest battles in Game of Thrones, which every battle's been great, but you got the Battle of the Bastards, you got the battle at the wall with the wildlings, you have the Battle of Blackwater.
To be fair, not every battle has been great. In the first season, there was a battle, and it showed like 7 people because they didn't have a CGI budget for it.
They knocked Tyrion out, which happens in the book too. They knock Tyrion out, and they don't show any of the battle. But when you're talking about the best battles in the show, I think those 3 are at the top. But it had none of the qualities that made those battles great. Like, Battle of the Bastards is my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And
No,
that's
same. I
not
agree.
in the books yet. It's fucking incredible. The cinematography, just the way that they had to, like, shoot around the fact that they couldn't use drones because of horses and people and weird rules over in Europe. The fact that they made that battle so beautiful. And then you have this piece of shit battle.
Right.
That's supposed to be, like, groundbreaking in the history of the fucking show. So, yeah, like, after 2 years, a short season, and another short season... where I essentially think they wasted half the season. I thought episode 4 was really good because it literally has everything that I like about Game of Thrones. Political intrigue, people reacting to events, people giving a shit about what's going on, and people that seem to be smart. In fact, I think that episode very much set Varys and Tyrion up as the main characters. Yeah. Whether or not it ends up being that way, I don't know.
Trey,
I 100% agree with you, Trey.
Right now, Trey is a 25-year veteran of watching WWE.
What do you mean?
Every argument he states is the exact same argument that actual like WWE fans have.
Yeah.
No continuity in WWE television. The best parts about WWE is the political structure. Like Vince McMahon's boss and everybody underneath him is like, oh, but that's not really how it is. Yeah, he's a WWE fan. He's a 25-year veteran of a WWE.
Really, I'm just like 1 week away, like just a week of full WWE watching to be like a huge fan.
Here's what I think is funny about Game of Thrones. I have been not watching, but I read recaps of how everything's playing out because I just don't care enough. But what I think is funny
we're going into new season spoilers, right?
Sure. What I think is funny...
Just warning the people.
Yeah, what I think is funny is that I don't think people are watching Game of Thrones for the right reasons.
Okay.
I think people are watching Game of Thrones for the memes anymore. Because I never see anybody talking about the fact that... can we talk about spoilers?
We gave a spoiler warning.
Nobody's talking about the fact that Dany just lost her second dragon.
Right.
Nobody's talking about that.
And I was like...
It's literally a huge deal that, as we know, there are 3 dragons known to exist and 2 of them are now gone.
Right.
And it's insane that nobody's talking about the implications of that, but they're talking about how Ghost didn't get pet on the way out of the show.
Or that there was a Starbucks cup.
Or there was a Starbucks cup on the fucking table, which that's just
completely over my head.
That's just funny. Okay?
Well, no, it's funny, but like I have a very big theory that is totally intentional.
Nobody's talking about the fact that...
Why is it intentional?
Because do you see how many people are talking about Starbucks now? You're telling me... mild tangent from what you were saying.
Oh my God.
You're telling me...
Hang on, where's my tinfoil hat?
You're telling me that... I'm not saying like in the story it's important.
No, you're
telling me...
You're saying...
You're saying at me as an actress, I don't sit here and say, oh, my cup is on the table. Hey, can we reshoot this? directors, everyone who looks at the fucking scene didn't see that. The editors who edited the scene didn't see that. Everybody let it go.
Hey, stop,
just so people can start talking.
Stop
about
talking
Starbucks.
for 2 seconds. So I'm going to.
Says you.
I'm going. Well, you're not getting to your point. Your point is, Starbucks has paid HBO to have a Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
You never said that.
I was getting to.
No, you didn't. You were getting there a long time.
Counterpoint.
You go on about things all the time.
Although I do
Yeah, but my point is being made every single sentence.
counterpoint.
Okay.
Although I do think that that's a possibility, right? Like the world where that's a possibility is fucking gross. But a counterpoint is
What
that
is
the
wrong
show
with you two?
the show has been like very consistent about the way that it shoots things literally up until this season. So of course it could happen here. But like they've been really consistent about continuity and people being in costume. There really up until this point hasn't been a moment where they've forgotten something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine with the way that they're editing the show, that maybe that's something that just kind of flew over an editor's head. Like I think stupidity.
Unless the scene was rushed, it can totally get past
Yeah,
it.
it's the
things
whole-
have gotten past me before.
It's the Occam razor.
Yeah, 100%.
Like the simplest explanation is usually the right one. Someone's fucking stupid and forgot about that
100%.
and literally just got fired.
1,000%, dude.
But I'm not saying that like that was you made a compelling argument for.
No,
me.
he did not. That's like saying chemtrails are a thing.
I think you made a compelling argument, although like I don't believe it because it does sort of fit into the chemtrail, flat Earth side.
I think the
I think
coming
I think it is pure, like, it's viral marketing. It makes so much sense.
Coming from a producer, director, and editor standpoint, that scene could have been added literally at the last minute, and it could easily get by an editor.
Also,
someone who's been on set for movies and TV and thing, I know how many people fucking looked at that table.
Also, the implications of that are
and how many times they reshot that scene.
The implications of that allegation are it's very gross.
It is gross.
That's really
Anyway,
gross.
Game of
if
Thrones
that's true.
acknowledged
Anyway,
it on their
Hey,
Twitter by saying Daenerys just wanted a chai latte.
We are literally proving my point. There are huge things happening in Game of Thrones, and nobody is talking about them. Nobody is talking about the fact that we just saw Daenerys' right hand beheaded, which is easily the trigger for a heel turn. Easily the trigger for Dany becoming the enemy.
To be fair,
nobody's talking about this.
to be fair, part of the reason why I'm not talking about that is because the whole making Dany do the heel turn thing has been incredibly sloppy, and it's literally just happened in like 3 episodes.
Sure.
When you've had a show that has consistently portrayed this character for 7 fucking seasons, and then in the first episode, it's like, oh, she could be a bad guy, and you're sitting over there shaking your head because you're a little asshole. I'm sorry that you think the worst of people.
I don't think the worst of people.
But this is not consistent with her character.
It is, though.
It is not. Before this season, when is another time where she is just fucking insane?
Whenever she burnt Samwell Tully's dad and brother for not bending the knee.
Whenever she first takes that city that starts with an M.
Marine?
Yes.
Yeah,
but
whenever she first takes that city.
Whenever she's going around
all of those
saving
things,
all these slaves, all she's doing is building an army.
It's not a matter of her being evil. It's a matter of her showing. So like when she takes Marine, when she burns, what's his face?
The Tully's.
Yeah. When she, those are hints and shadows of Daenerys showing her lust for power, and those are that's what I see in the heel turn. It's not necessarily that she's heel turning for an evil; she's heel turning for power.
I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that the drasticness of the heel turn seems completely inconsistent.
Well, no, that's how. That's how heel turns
like it's
have
coming
to
out
happen.
of nowhere.
Yeah,
Because
but that's how heel turns have to happen, though, right?
No, but it doesn't feel natural because like here's the Tarly family thing that is completely consistent with how her character has been up until that point. And you're talking about Marine and all this other stuff that she did, but every time I'm literally rewatching the show for the second time this year right now as the final season is going on, every time that she does something fucked up, she has a justification for it, and there is a tactical reason why she's doing it. And while she can be talked out of it, like the whole nailing up all the masters in Marine after the children had been nailed up, and someone coming and saying like, this is my family, can you please just let me take my dad down? She obviously has that soft side, and she's willing to listen, and she has her moments of conquest, but she literally is always able to back it up with how she views the world. And the fact that like actually I would argue that since season 7 is where it really got sloppy, but since season 7 it's really been like, why are you doing this? It doesn't make any sense. There's no tactical reason for you to do this. And now at the beginning of season 8 she's doing a complete 180 out of nowhere, and it's like, this isn't who you are. This isn't the character that has been built up for 6 seasons.
I'm not sure a full heel turn has to be justified through a character.
I
Because
feel like if you watched the show, you would agree with me.
Number one, if one of my closest friends was killed in front of me for no reason, I guess, what was Mormont to Danny? Just some dude, or was he like?
Jorah.
I don't know.
She loved him. I mean,
they're friends.
Friend, like
Best
father-daughter friend.
No, just really close friends.
Okay, so she's lost 2 of her closest friends in the last, I don't know, fucking 24 hours. I don't know how long this has been going on. With somebody who already understands that she's got the most powerful being ever on her side. She, as of right now, she also has a family on her side that's what's it called? Prone to take the throne. That's probably not the right word. She's got all these things. A heel turn, to me, it makes sense.
No, but here's the issue: is that Jorah dies, Rhaegal dies, and Missandei die. But all of these things happen in such quick succession that the one thing that you're not getting in between those scenes is the second where the character fucking talks about it, which is all Game of Thrones is. Game of Thrones is big event happens, and everyone reacts to that event, and you get their point of view so that the next time a big event happens, you completely understand why they did what they did.
Yeah, but there's only 6 episodes a season, right?
Right. I 100% agree with you. Like, I think all of the problems, even problems that I have too, like, I'm not a huge fan of this season. This episode, this most recent episode, definitely the best one of this season. All of those problems stem from the fact that it's just 6 episodes.
You don't think that's enough for you to snap?
It's not a matter of it being enough for me to snap. It's a matter of like, this is George R. R. Martin has summed up what Game of Thrones is about. It's about the human heart in conflict with itself.
Sure, but George R. R. Martin hasn't written anything in this season.
It doesn't matter. That's what the show is about. It's what the series is about.
I get it. You're getting way too fired up about this.
Because I can't finish a point because someone interrupts me when I'm in the middle of my point. The thing that makes this show work
all the time.
The thing that makes this show work is that like every time that the human heart is in conflict with itself, there's a moment where people are talking about it, where you get to see that. And regardless of whether or not they have 6 episodes, which I think is a misstep, it literally is just like such sloppy writing that is so inconsistent with the first 6 seasons of the show and parts of 7 that it's just to me it's a disgrace.
I would say like my main counterpoint for everyone who, because there's a lot of people who share the same opinion. Like a lot of people feel like, why is Dany taking all these steps against the character that she was built? I think that there were a lot of little breadcrumbs throughout the original seasons, way more subtle and better written. In the first, let's say 6 seasons. But I think that this heel turn that she's going through now is it's happening because now she's put in situations that in the first 6 seasons we never had to see her in. We didn't see her in those political things in Westeros. I felt like it was really easy for her to look like a hero and a savior when she's in Essos, saving slaves, building her army and whatnot, because she was kind of on her own time. There wasn't a big time crunch there. But now that she's in Westeros, she's having to make deals with the Starks and dealing with Cersei and all these things that I think is revealing that she just isn't built for, basically.
which is totally fine, but it's like you're missing the DNA of what makes those that communicates that to the audience, because there's a reason why Tywin and Cersei and fucking all these weird characters sort of become point of view characters in the show. It's because you don't have a moment to be in someone's head to dissect who those characters are.
Your big argument isn't the heel turn. Your big argument is how it's being written.
It's sloppy writing.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree on that. I think because it's very apparent because this whole season George R. R. Martin had no writing in this whatsoever. I'm not even sure about last season. He might have written one or two.
I don't think he has since season 5.
Yeah. So and that's the thing is like I'm coming at it from an outset standpoint, just from a story perspective. I totally see a heel turn being justified. However, from a writing standpoint, I'm sure I would agree with you if I would watch it.
Yeah.
I like I said, my argument. I don't have an argument. I'm just coming from a standpoint. It's like just from an outset of knowing the story. I think Danny turning heel is 100% right.
Oh, no.
Right.
I
Like
think
it
that's
makes sense.
I
It's
think
just how
that's
they're doing
exactly
it.
what should be happening.
I agree. I think it's something that would happen. I think that it makes sense.
But from your standpoint,
from the perspective of the show,
Sure, of course.
it just seems like it's coming out of nowhere.
From a writing standpoint, yeah.
And then we're also sitting here talking about, well, there's only 6 episodes. 2 of those episodes are wasted.
Right.
Both of those episodes should have been 1 episode, and it should have been in season fucking 7. They had absolutely no purpose being here. This show should have opened up with the battle at Winterfell.
And the reason that there are 6 episodes is purely just because of their decision. Like no one is forcing them.
No one's forcing them to do
make
6
6 episodes.
It's just interesting because we're running into this because Gotham had their series finale, and their series finale should have been 2 episodes long. I know that's not the same caliber of TV show.
No, but I mean,
it's kind of the same thing, right? Their series finale should have been 2 episodes because they had the reveal of the Bat, they had the reveal of basically his rogue gallery, and it was really cool. And it should have been 2 episodes because the entire thing felt insanely rushed. Where this is the same issue, right? Game of Thrones season 8. What is the season?
Season 8.
It feels rushed because there's a lot of shit that they have to get into it, so you don't get the human side of anything.
Well, and there's like just this inflexibility that exists in the entertainment industry where we have to do a 12 song album, and we have to have a $60 video game that doesn't have any sort of like early release date for people to try stuff out, and we have to do a big final season that's 6 episodes long. There's just all these things in entertainment that we do because that's what we do, and it's really annoying to not see people, to use Game of Thrones terms, break the wheel. Like, why can't we do something different? Why do we have to do it this way?
Game of Thrones is doing different, right? 6 episodes in a final season that's usually 10.
Sure, but
I mean, they kind of fell into the whole like break the last thing into 2 parts. I feel like they took one season 7, and they basically just split it in 2.
and that's what it feels like. And it also feels like, why 6 episodes? Why is this the direction that you want to go with the show? And why would you waste 2 episodes at the beginning of the show?
Money.
I guess.
You think? I mean, I feel like they would make more money with more episodes. But
I have
I
no
mean,
clue.
also they would have to spend a lot more money to film those episodes. So
And I get the scary part of this, right? Is that you're finishing off George R.R. Martin, who I think there are a lot of people out there that don't like his works, and I understand that, but I don't think that you can make an argument by looking at his work and not admitting that he's some sort of genius. Like the way that he's able to like balance storylines and make these complex political situations, like we don't see a lot of writers that can do it in his depth. And even like Tolkien, who is someone who he's directly inspired by, I don't think that he handled politics in a way that Martin does. And that's where he sets himself
He
apart.
barely handled it at all. Politics doesn't really exist in Lord of the Rings too much.
But that's where Martin sets himself apart
Sure.
from other fantasy writers. That's where he's going to be making his name, and I can understand how that's intimidating, but like I don't know what the solution is, and I shouldn't have to think of the solution. I'm the viewer.
right, it's true.
You should just have to complain.
Oh, that's exactly what I've been doing. But I do it on a fucking podcast that I record, and people can optionally listen to. I'm not fucking shouting on Twitter or writing 1,000-page blog posts on YouTube or on Reddit or posting videos on YouTube.
Well, the problem is they're doing all that.
Although this is going on YouTube.
Yeah.
Shit.
The problem is they're doing all that, but they're talking about how John didn't pet a dog.
I know.
They're not talking about the big deal. Nobody's talking about the big deals.
Some people are,
No, they're not.
but not a lot.
One like sort of final thought to cap off this podcast. I got to hang out with 2 friends of mine this weekend that I've literally not ever gotten to hang out with, and we were sitting down and talking about stuff. And one of the,
you run a risk of them killing you.
no, I think we're all just equally socially awkward. So we're all like, it's hard to get us in the same room together. But we were sitting there and we were talking about something, and one of the things that came up is like this nerd superiority. And it reminded me of the story that happened to me in high school. Is when I was graduating high school, it was right before the Green Lantern movie came out, and everyone thought it was going to be great, and everyone was hyped up on the Green Lantern.
The
movie.
Ryan Reynolds one?
Yeah,
That was a great movie.
I think most people would disagree with that.
I
Even
liked it.
Ryan Reynolds disagrees with that.
I also thought Batman vs Superman was great. So
But that part is besides the point. Everyone thought it was going to be great, so everyone was hyped up on Green Lantern. And I remember the last week of school, I was in the band hall because like we had our band final, which was basically sitting around and watching movies for 3 hours. And I walked by a couple of the jocks, and they were like, "Hey, they were talking about Hal Jordan, and they were talking about how Hal Jordan wasn't the original Green Lantern, and that John Stewart actually was." And I like stopped and I turned around, and up until this weekend, I was really embarrassed of this story, but I stopped and turned around. And I was like, actually, you're wrong. Alan Scott was the first Green Lantern. He was a white dude, but he was very different than the Green Lantern that we know. And then Hal Jordan was the second Green Lantern. John Stewart didn't become a Green Lantern until like Hal Jordan was an already established character. It was very douchey of me. But I've been thinking about this a lot because like as Avengers Endgame is happening and Game of Thrones is happening, I've been thinking about why I feel like so fucking like stuck up. And looking back at that story, I think the reason why I did that was because like there's a certain level of connection that you get with things that you really like, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel or Game of Thrones or anything, comic books. And the way that like this sort of meme and internet era has like normalized things, you have people that are sort of getting in on the conversation that really don't have much to contribute to it. It's the whole like ghost, like petting ghosts and not freaking out about the fact that a second dragon died, right? And so I get really like bitter and mad about it, and because it feels like to a certain degree, and this is me being way over dramatic about it, but it feels like to a certain degree that like a part of my culture is being co-opted by people that don't appreciate what that culture is actually about. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting that like just me sort of having this thought made me reevaluate something that I did in high school that I previously was super embarrassed about. Still a little embarrassed by it, but I at least understand why I did it.
It's funny to me that this is what you were thinking of.
Well,
just like this, just I don't know. Like I think it's funny the memories that we hold on to, like from high school. Like I'm sure like those jocks totally don't even remember that, and it's just crazy that you still.
I just feel that way all the time though. Like when you're like, it's just stupid and dumb, and like I really don't. And I know that part of it is my own psychosis, but like, have you ever just been walking by someone and they're talking about something that you really really like, and they just miss it? They miss the point completely.
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, you want to say something, but you keep walking. Like
all the time.
That's sort of how I feel with the internet all the time. Is that someone talks about something and I'm like, I should comment on this, but I just keep on scrolling.
Well, you learned.
And I'm like, why? And
you learned from high school.
And so I'm just sort of dissecting why I feel this way, like why I feel this sense of entitlement. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's an entitlement.
100%.
But I don't think that I'm unjustified in feeling this way, because I don't know. And it also comes down to my character type. Like I don't talk about things I don't know about. I'm never going to get in an argument with you about what sports team is the best because I don't know anything about it. And I'm not going to pretend like I know something about it and try to be someone I'm not. And I don't understand why everyone insists so hard on trying to be something they're not.
Do you want my opinion? You're looking at me like you want me to say something.
Oh, no, you just hadn't said anything. So I was just...
Oh, it's because I don't want to insult anybody.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. I don't mean him.
Oh,
I just mean people in general.
Oh, then
which would definitely like.
But do you ever feel that way?
No, because it's stupid.
I don't want to insult you.
Look at the time.
No, that's what it's just dumb. It's like so. I would understand that mentality if you worked your fucking ass off to earn something, and somebody else was earning that same thing without ever working their ass off. That's a mentality I can get behind. I worked my ass off to become a good guitar player and get paid to play guitar. And it's really fucking annoying when the younger kids come around and they just suck, but they're getting paid for whatever reason, right? That's a mentality. It's like, man, that's really fucking stupid. It doesn't happen often because that's like a talent thing, right? But sometimes you see that. It's like, well, this kid's getting paid $1,000 and he doesn't even fucking deserve it. You know what I mean? But like, I know a shit ton of stuff about Star Wars. And I love talking to you about Star Wars, but I don't ever feel the need to correct somebody about Star Wars that doesn't know as much as me about Star Wars.
I've gotten over the need to correct people about it.
Sure,
that's not the point.
Oh, but even the feeling of like I need to correct them when they're wrong, in my own personal head is just dumb. You know, to me that's ridiculous because it's a fight that it's triggering a fight that never needs to happen, and it's triggering an anxiety reflex in me that never even needs to happen. It's kind of like that thing. It's like for people who feel that way, you're just feeding your own anxiety, and that's just, you know, it's dumb. We already all have a problem with high anxiety cultures, and the world we live in is just everything in this world triggers anxiety because it's stressful, and that's one thing that you should, instead of triggering anxiety, you should just walk away with pride, saying like, "Yep, I know more than this motherfucker." Just walk away.
I don't know. For me, it's more the fact that like, just the point gets missed, and that's what irritates me.
Yeah, but it's not. Again, like, and this is my own.
Like,
it's not. It's
like
not,
the whole like Green Lantern thing. Is
yeah,
that,
but it's
like,
not your job to correct them.
I'm not saying it's my job to correct them. I'm just saying that like it bothers me that like that because the majority of people have the same access to communicating about something as everyone else, you're flooding out the actual message. You know, it's like the thing about the Green Lantern thing. Like, it's not about the fact that like the first Green Lantern wasn't a black guy. It's about the fact that like eventually we got to a point where Green Lantern was a black guy, and that version of that character is so much more recognizable to the vast majority of people that like that's impressive and that's cool.
Sure, but
because that's a history of comics where like black characters weren't getting through.
Sure, but you know what else is kind of cool is if those dudes really did think the first Green Lantern was black, that might be cooler than us just finally getting to the fact of having a black Green Lantern.
I don't know. I think that like,
is it wrong? Is it wrong
100%?
Sure. Is it wrong 100%? But I think the idea of, these guys thinking, the first Green Lantern was black. That's to me, that's a bit more accepting than getting to the point where it's like, we finally have a black Green Lantern. Does that make sense?
No,
it's a way of looking at something, and this is
it doesn't make sense to me because it's that like the history of that product should be kept intact for all its bad and its good.
Yeah, it's a comic book,
but it's not. It's a culture. It's
a comic
culture.
book.
Whatever. We're gonna
we need
to end anyways because Taylor and Justin are sign languaging at each other.
Anything.
You guys are both right and wrong.
Oh no, neither one of us is right and or wrong.
If you guys want to follow all of us on social media or follow the podcast on social media, just hit the description of this podcast. There are links down there. You can just click them, go do all that, and make sure you follow us on Twitch too, which I'm going to add to our thing because I keep forgetting to do it, so that you guys can see our pop culture show every week, Tuesdays at 10 p.m.
Yes, right now. Yes.
Cool.
I'll let you know if it changes.
All right. Okay, then we'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye, guys.